So first it was about pedophilia. She was like posting all day long about the the Clintons and what's this guy called, the guy who was arranging all those underage girls sex parties, whatever, who killed himself or not killed himself. So people who are posting that shit, a lot of times I find them also liking right wing ideas, and it has something to do with this fucking, you know, like, oh shit, it's mine. This is the idea. It has like a weird fucking feeling, the right wing type of feeling that is very seductive. It's like black magic in a fucking movie. You know, you get the thing, and it's the thing, and you can hate something. You know, as a Russian, as a European, I can say like, yeah, I can really hate things, and really gives me that nice feeling. Like, fuck it. Maybe it's more like I'm totally right until death, and they're totally wrong, and that gives like a good feeling in the brain of certainty or something like that. So you're certain, so you feel good, and then you go into that point, then more and more and more and deeper, deeper, deeper. So you have to be more certain, so you get yourself that crazy vibe. Well, that's very dangerous. That can lead to a lot of conflicts, and as shown, Western Europe is very good at conflicts. So anyway, again, if Americans are listening to this, they're like, "What is he talking about?" Okay, well, we've been talking about guns. We've been talking about also talked about Russia. Why Russia is like okay to Putin is okay to fight a little bit in that sense against potentially dangerous enemy, which can go crazy. Now you see all those right-wing parties the last 10 to 15 years, thanks to 9/11. Oh yeah, that's what I was talking about. So the Nazis kind of parties were dormant inside of the societies for a very long time, and are coming up. However, you know, I had a very long argument that I was making about that the Germans were Nazis, and they started the First World War and the Second World War. What's it? And this argument can go back that the Germans were always warlike, all the way down to the argument that they were very warlike and very like beast-like, uh, since the Romans wrote about them, right? But at the same time, you know, the Romans just came in, and the Germans were protecting their own tribes. However, in their own tribes, that what a lot of people don't know, again, the early history actually exists. Um, the kings, for example, didn't have any issues of letting the slaves, that's how usually was done, slit the throat of the children on the wife, or choke them to death in their sleep. So as the children sleep and the wife, because the leader, the male, had, for example, had fallen in love into the beautiful maiden, which her name is Hidalda, and Hidalda, they saw each other on a field, and so he decided to be with her because the gods wills it like that, and that was the true love, and hopefully it won't change. So it really actually happened. So from the early stages of writing about Germans, they were very loud. Okay, they were very like aggressive. They could, you know, stand up and start fighting and stuff like that. So um, that might that barbarian feeling that they have, you know, fighting, that might explain a lot about how why First World War started or the Second World War was started, because there's a huge discussion about, yeah, but uh, you know, are they Nazis? Are they very warlike or not? Fact is, they did start two world wars. Okay, there is this funny thing, which is actually scientific fact, the Germans have the smallest penises in all of Europe. Yeah, it's crazy, but that's science. So they measure that type of things, and maybe that has something to do. You know, Freud has been discredited, of course, throughout the years, and his techniques and whatnot. You know, he used to use too much coke. Apparently, there's such a thing as too much coke. Not unless you ask a timeshare sales person or any lawyer or whatever in any Europe. Believe me, I lived long enough in Europe and I know a lot of lawyers. They all use coke almost every single day. Anyway, because life in Holland, that's why I don't want to go back. It's a piece of shit. But I have to explain about that. I'm not going to do that. So going back to the fear of Russians to protect them. Okay, so you have a protector. Fine, great. Ask yourself this question. Could you have a different protector? Why not a different protector? Is Putin the only one like sitting there and there's no other smart people around in all of its 140 million people? He's the only one who can sit there and tell what to do and what not to do in the biggest country in the world. Now, if you want to have problems about ruling a country, the biggest in the world, with 140 million people, then you should have just one guy on top. Then you're going to have a huge problem. You know why? Because such a complex system cannot be ruled by one or just 100 or 200 very, very powerful oligarchs, which is how Russia works, right? You have the oligarch class, and then you have what is rooted underneath, and the money goes directly from. Yeah, by the way, a lot of people love Putin, don't know that he steals all the money from its own poor country, and the economy of Russia, a lot of people don't know, is smaller or equal to Canada. Okay, so for all you people, oh, big Russia, fucking Canada, bro, get the fuck out of here. Canada, there's like 3 fucking pine trees and some mountains. No disrespect to Canadian troops. They kicked ass in the Second World War. A lot of people don't know that. I didn't know that. Then I learned. Anyway, so Russia has been defending, but can there be another guy who's defending them? Yes, there can. Should there be? Yes, there should be. The best way to run a country or an office or a school or a kickbox championship type of place or jiu-jitsu place or whatever, it's always according to a certain fucking structure. Okay, and when we're talking about structures in political science, you can have a dictatorship, you can have a like intermediate period where there's like a revolution going on, things are changing, or you can have a democracy, or so the people are represented by and you can have a kingdom, right? You can have a dictator, but you can have a kingdom. That's what they call the nice dictator. You can have in the Middle Ages you had a certain type of like a lord. He would give the soil, to bigger farmers, and they would have slaves there, or somebody who's working there, and they would work for 50 years, and they would die, and new generations would come, and they would help that land, right? So when it started to change in about 1500, is when richer people from trading with colonies, for example, they became richer in Italy, and that's where you get the Renaissance from. Renaissance. So you get the people became more aware of the old philosophies, and they had more time on their hands and they had a lot of money. So they started buying art and promoting art and philosophy and that type of stuff. So the ball got rolling, and Europe became smarter, right? More civilized, better guns. So they started spreading all around the world, And because they're very, very warlike people, they just colonized all of it, right? So you have Africa, which was colonized, fucking retarded. How can you just. Russia never did that shit. Russia never went and fucking colonized places, right? Only after a certain amount of time did the Russians start to do that type of stuff. After the Second World War, for example, they stayed in a bunch of different countries, which they got out of that fairly quickly. But there's the question of, did they want to get out of it, or did they try to keep it, or whatever? But the Soviet Union fell apart, right? So it is kind of true that the Western Europeans really, really prone to do crazy stuff all the time. And seeing now that, by crazy stuff I mean like invading countries, taking over their businesses, taking over all that stuff. And you can see that there's a right-wing movements which can be very dangerous again, you know. There was in Italy, in Holland, you have the PVV, the Party of Freedom. In France, you have the big what's it called? I don't know. It's fucking big party. In Poland, half of the government is really fucking Nazi. Like literally, the sitting government that has just been rechosen for another 4 years is super right wing, right? Uh, so Russia is like sitting there. Yeah, you can argument away against Putin, like, yeah, it's not the right type of government. It should be a democracy. It should work as a democracy. Maybe democracies are really weak against this type of international pressure, that they become right wing, and you know, they collapse by themselves, and they cannot handle the consequences. But that's not true. That's not true. It's really and now the point is coming. In all circumstances, you want to have a democracy with a middle class, and with raging fucking capitalism. Why do you want that? Simple, because in political science we have since Montesquieu. Montesquieu was a French guy who said, okay, how do we get a stable democracy working? You know, without going into too many famines, or being able to protect yourself, having a good police structure, that police is not corrupt and racist like they are in the US, obviously, right? How do we make sure that that happens? Well, it's not that easy, but it's also not so hard. One of the easiest things is the blueprint, like I was saying, a blueprint for a jiu-jitsu place, or how to run a business or a school or whatever, is simply to have independent powers, to give powers that keep each other in balance. Those three independent balances is police, judiciary, and politics. Those three must not intertwine itself like in the US it does. That's why you have a lot of shit in the US. You have fucking Donald Trump in power. That's ridiculous. So you have to balance it right. You have to balance independent police, independent judiciary that keeps the police in check, and the politics that keeps the other people in check, because it gives power to somebody else, and the people can vote for it, right? So that's the best way to run things, and the economy would be better. If there was no Putin, if there was a democracy and capitalism, just like in any other Western country, there would be way less discord in the world. Now, since the Second World War, the Western European countries, yes, they have a development of right-wing parties now, but it's not that much. Yes, they do have parties here and there in Holland and other places, but there is little or no real consent of the people that we need to kill the Jews or the Islam people or whatever. It's not as big. And also historically, when you look at the Second World War, before the Second World War, for 15 years, yes, the Nazis came up, but once they were into power accidentally, by a stupid choice somebody made, he kind of took that power and grabbed it. That doesn't mean that all of the people wanted to give the power to the Nazis. And also, it doesn't mean that all of those people who voted for him wanted to have the Jews killed or annihilated or do all the atrocities. It's that type of person with that type of time in that type of time, and things just went horribly, horribly, horribly wrong. Okay?